Welcome back to Big Blue Lifers. I'm Lifer Mr. U. Lifer Just is in the house, and we got another Lifer. The Entertainah is in the building tonight. What's going on, Fran?
Excited, man. Excited to be on with you guys. You guys reached out to me on Twitter. I always try to make time when ever, a podcaster, asks me to come on their platform, and just excited to be talking Giants, and draft's going to be here before we know it. And then we're kind of bored for about 2 months, and then we're ready for the regular season. So I can't wait.
Yeah. We're going to try to make it work. Justin, I don't know what that's like yet. We're going to try to figure out how to muddle through the slow times, but we're having fun so far. This is the dream come true for both of us. We've been lifelong Giants fans. I'm a lot older than he is, but we're both lifelong Giants fans. We've been watching the product since we were little kids, and now we're in here with you, man. It's a dream come true as well, man, to have you in here. You're a Twitter legend, man, in our mind, and you love the Giants, and we love you because of that. So glad to have you in here, man. We're going to jump in and talk some stuff, man. So I don't know how you want to start off, Jess. We got a round of questions to hit you with, man. We can just talk about whatever. I probably got some thoughts about your best memory of the Giants, a whole bunch of different stuff I want to throw at you, man. But kind of let's go with Jess's first question about your thoughts on the state of Giants fandom. Now, on Twitter, it feels like it's like the bizarro world on Twitter. On Facebook or someplace else, it don't seem to be the same. But on Twitter, it seems to be more fiery, more toxic, more vitriol, if you will. So share your thoughts on that. You're big on Twitter, and you got a lot of a big fan base on Twitter. Tell us what you think is going on in Giants fandom on Twitter and even beyond too.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. I'm not on Facebook, so I the only platforms I'm really on are YouTube and Twitter. YouTube, you don't really get a real gauge for the Giants fans as a whole, because it's kind of people that are fans of you. You don't really interact. You get trolls here and there, but you don't really interact with like Twitter. You get it from all angles, so you get a better gauge of what the fan. The thing I always say about Twitter, though, I feel like it doesn't really. It's not a good barometer of Giants fans. I feel like people feel it is that are on Twitter. But I feel like it's probably only about 10 to 15% of Giants fans. And I think you get a lot of reactionary takes on Twitter. It's a fun place to be, though. There's a lot of debate. I need to take time off. It's why I'm not nearly as active as I used to be on Twitter. I used to be on there all the time. I take 2-3 months off now where I don't tweet at all because to me, it's a toxic place. It's a fun place. It's a good place to interact with fans. I'm sure you guys probably started this podcast because of Twitter, which is great. So it's great, but time it's very toxic, and you get it from all angles, and I get it because the team is a mess. They've been a mess since their last Super Bowl, really. Outside of a couple of years, they've been an absolute mess.
14 years, bro.
Yeah, so I get it. I get where the fans are coming from. I'm always a guy that tries to remain level-headed for the most part. I'm a guy that tries to preach patience and wants to give the regime an opportunity, and there's a large portion of Giants fans that are kind of the opposite. They're kind of, I need immediate results. And unfortunately, those fans have been proven right over the last 10 to 14 years because the patient approach hasn't worked. And we'll see where it goes from there. But I think fans are frantic, panicking, and probably numb to all of it over the last couple of years. I know I was numb last year. I felt numb after about week 8 because I knew the season was over yet again. And we'll see where we go here. And the fans going into the draft kind of seem split down the middle. It feels like you have some fans that they want Shedeur and nothing else. They don't want to hear about Abdul Carter. They don't want to hear about Travis Hunter. Then you have fans that don't want Shedeur at all, and they only want Travis Hunter. You find very few fans in the middle that are like, oh, yeah, I'd be happy with either scenario. I'm kind of in the middle. I recognize that the Giants need a quarterback. I also recognize that Shedeur Sanders is, I think, a good prospect. I don't think he's a great prospect. And these two guys are elite players. So I would be fine either way because I recognize the Giants are in a position where they need a quarterback desperately. 4th year of a GM. You brought in a guy that's a quarterback guy to be the head coach. But at the same time, as Shane said in his presser yesterday or the day before, whenever it was, these guys are generational players, and it's tough to pass on those guys. So I'm starting to lean more towards I think they're going Abdul Carter. But, yeah, it seems Twitter's going to explode no matter what they do with that first pick. You're going to have half the fan base that's upset they didn't take a quarterback, or you're going to have half the fan base that they took a quarterback and they feel like they reached. But that's Giants Twitter.
Yeah, I remember when I really started getting involved with Giants, the fandom on Twitter and everything. It was like 2021, maybe right before 2022 draft. And like we were at the height of, or almost at the height of, pro DJ versus anti DJ, and that whole thing that I'm sure you're more than aware of with all of the big Giants personalities. You kind of actually answered the follow-up that I had there about, the whole pro Sanders versus anti Sanders, which kind of seems to be like the new pro DJ, anti DJ. Yeah. So, and you said you're leaning that they're going to take Abdul, which based on what Abdul tweeted today, #56, following up with his visit with the Giants, where he tweeted out nothing but a photo of Taylor, all that sort of stuff. It seems like that's where he thinks they're leaning to. But for the sake of Shane and Daboll, what do you think is more important here? That they take a guy like Carter, try to just win now with, I think, what's rated as, based off of last year's records, the hardest schedule in all of football. Because of course the Giants, or do you think they should take Shedeur and, kind of force the hand maybe of Mara to be like, hey, we took our guy, you got to let us develop him? What do you think would be better for them to say?
I think it's a great question. And for the longest time this year, I had us taking Shedeur up until about the last 2 weeks for the exact reason that you said. When I talk about it, when I mock these drafts and when I guess what the Giants are going to do, I don't think about it necessarily from what I feel is the best thing for the team to do. I put myself in the mindset of the general manager and what is the best thing for him to do? Because usually that's where you're going to get your answer. What's the best thing for the general manager to do? Because at the end of the day, he's trying to keep his job. He's trying to build the team as long as he can. And that's why I thought they were taking Shedeur, for the reasons that you said. At the end of the day, if you take Shedeur Sanders, I think that gives him the best path to coming back in 2026. You could start Russell Wilson for 8 to 10 games. You bring in Shedeur the last 5 or 6 games, as long as he shows some promise. You sell Mara on that, even if you win 4 or 5 games. If you don't draft the rookie quarterback early, that goes out the window. And you better at least be competitive. You better be winning 7 games against this challenging schedule, not getting blown out in the division, showing that you have something to build off of going into the next year. And at the end of the day, we all know that GMs live and die with the quarterback. Shane doesn't know if he's going to get another opportunity to take a swing at that position, even if he does come back the following year. Because if we're picking in the middle of the pack, what are you going to do at that point? You're going to extend Russell Wilson? I don't know. What are you going to do? So that's why I was of the mindset that they were going to take Shedeur. I thought it was best for Joe Shane. Now, if you put me on a lie detector test and you ask me, what do I think is best for the Giants? Even though I selfishly want Shedeur because I want some hope. I want a quarterback of the future. I want somebody to build with. And I do think he's better than a lot of the pundits say. I think long-term, I think the better move is to take Abdul Carter. But I don't think it's the best move for Joe Shane. I think Joe Shane's probably going to end up getting fired because of it. Because I don't think the Giants are going to win more than 5 or 6 games next year. And I hope they prove me wrong. I pray they prove me wrong. But if here's my question to you guys. If the Giants win 5 or 6 games like Vegas is predicting, and they don't draft Shedeur Sanders, what is the incentive for John Mara to keep Joe Shane at that point? We all know that the fans want him out of town. They were flying planes over the stadium the last 2 or 3 weeks last year. So Mara brought him back in spite of that, right? He stuck to his guns. But if the team has another subpar year, 5 or 6 wins, they have very little to sell long-term, in terms of hope at the quarterback spot, because you didn't spend the 3rd overall pick on the quarterback. What's the incentive for Mara to bring Joe Shane back? And that's the question I keep asking myself. And I also think about it like, well, if Shane spends a pick on a guy like Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter, that's only improving the situation for the incoming GM. It makes the position more attractive for the guys that are out there. So I think it's a more attractive job. I think a big reason why Shane came back in the first place this year was because it was an unattractive job. He only had 3 years. Now you're improving the team even more in terms of outside of the quarterback spot. You didn't screw up the cap situation. You didn't spend like a lunatic at free agency. So I actually think this looks like an attractive job next year if the Giants want to acquire an outside general manager, which is why I always thought they were going Shedeur Sanders up until about the last 3 or 4 weeks. At the same time, I kind of give Joe Shane credit in a way because he's not being selfish. He's doing what he honestly feels is in the best long-term interest of this football team. And if he loses his job because of it, it is what it is. But I actually give him credit for that he's not thinking about himself. Because I think if you're being honest, if he was, he'd take the quarterback, and it doesn't appear he's going to.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of, I mean, for me personally, if you don't go Shedeur at 3, I don't even necessarily want them then to go quarterback at 34 or 65.
I'm with
Because
you.
at that point, like Milroe, he wouldn't fit the timeline. To me, that's just kind of like, I want immediate impact if I'm going to be taking a quarterback. Like Shedeur at 3, like you said, Wilson starts, 8-10 games, then you can put Shedeur in if it looks like a lost season. Milroe, he's a big project. Dart's a big project. I'm not big on Dart at all. I like some of his physicals, but that Ole Miss offense it's a one-read offense. It is designed to be, it's designed to be very simple for the quarterback to operate. Slow is, if we take him in the 5th, I'd be okay with that, but he's got an injury history. He's a much older prospect. I don't know if you guys have seen that clip on Twitter of him at the combine, because in shorts and everything, whiffing.
When I saw that clip, I thought it was a drunk fan that they got out of the stands that won a contest, that they said throw a football, and his mechanics looked like he was on a Nintendo Wii. Looked like he had never played football in his entire life. And I know it's one clip. It is what, I'm not going to judge him completely off of that. But I'm not drooling over a 26-year-old collegiate quarterback with an injury history. I'm just not. And I'm with you. If you're not going to take the quarter, here's the thing. As a fan, I'm not the general manager. As a fan, I'm being told by all the experts that this is a mediocre quarterback class, right? Mm-hmm. Outside of Cam Ward and possibly Shedeur Sanders, nobody really views any of these guys as day one quarterbacks. So, and we all know the Giants are super desperate to take a quarterback. Like, that's beyond obvious. If you don't take a quarterback at 3, how am I supposed to feel as a fan that you take one with the second-round pick? Like, it's a crummy or mediocre quarterback class to begin with. You're in desperate need of one. You had the opportunity to take one at 3, and then you're gonna try to sell the fan base on one at 34. Like, for me, if you're not gonna take one at 3, I'm on board if you take one at 3. That's your guy. You waited your whole life to get this job. Sell us on him, right? Hope you're right if you take Shedeur Sanders there. But if you don't take the quarterback at 3, I'm not saying don't take a quarterback at all. But I don't want one at 34. I don't want you trading up to 28. I don't want that. I'm not in that group. If you want to take one at 65, maybe even then I don't like it. 99, 105. I think that's kind of the spot where if you want to go early.
Will Howard, Kyle McCord, one of those guys. Yeah.
I'm on board with that, but I'm with you completely as far as taking a quarterback at 34. I think it'd be a stupid idea by Joe Schoen.
How does this sound to you? Pick 3, Abdul Carter. Pick 34, Derek Harmon. Pick 65, Tate Ratledge. How's that sound to you?
Sounds good. I'm good. I mean, I'm good. I selfishly want a quarterback, but you improved the lines. I'm a happy man. So yeah, it sounds good to me. It sounds good to me. But I think the Giants are taking a running back early, though. I'll tell you that right now, because they brought in all these running backs. They brought in like 6 running backs out of their top 30 visits. Maybe not round 2, but I think round 3 they're taking a running back.
I think they're
fine early.
Henderson, Judkins, Gordon. There's no way Hampton is.
I don't
falling.
think he gets to 34.
No, I don't think he gets to 34 at all. I think an outside shot that I've seen some people talking about is everyone's talking about if Shedeur falls to Pittsburgh, but maybe they go Hampton. I've seen some people talking about because they need to improve the running back room, But I don't know. I've got like you said, and like Yusuf and I were talking about before you joined. At this point, I just want it to be over with. Like, let's just get this. Yeah. The draft it always feels like it's like 2 weeks later than it needs to be, because it feels like we've all said everything there is to say. I don't think anything we're saying here is truly like new, that something people haven't heard before, from every pundit on ESPN to every mock draft that the PFF YouTube channel or Twitter account's putting out. At this point, it just needs to get here. Let's be over and done with it.
I'm going to jump in on this real quick, man. This is a complicated issue. And I know that, in this season, all we hear is lies for the most part, lies and smoke screens. We can't believe any of this stuff. All we can do is just predict, mock, hope, dream, pray, and whatever else, right? But I'm trying to think about this from your standpoint, Tina, and what you were saying before about how you would mind them loading the defense up. And I mean, honestly, Jess and I have discussed this probably our first couple of shows. Those are the teams that won Super Bowls.
Oh, yeah.
I was talking on our other show about the quarterback room, and no, I think this was on Twitter earlier today. And I forgot what the tenor of the conversation was, but the bottom line was that I was saying that I can't remember in the past 10, 12 years where a Super Bowl was won by a quarterback, if you know what I mean. It was won by defense and other things. It's like with the Giants, that's especially true. So for me, and we'll get to this question later, but I want to talk to you about that and say, you know what, okay, if we do go ahead and load the defense up with Abdul Carter and we have a top 12, top 15 defense, are we going to be mad about that?
No.
Any way that we can be kept in games. I mean, because honestly, despite our record last year, I've been saying this on every show I've been on, the margin of victory was super slim on the losses.
I think we lost 7 one-score games last year, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. That puts you in a place where you have a 10-11 win season if that flips. Yeah. So it's like, why not load up on the defense, make it where it's just a powerhouse, because you got to play guys like Philly. You better have a powerhouse defense because they got Goliaths on both sides of the line. So start the defense up, make it impenetrable, if you will, and then what about the other stuff on the back end? Now, what you said about the quarterback thing, that's a real thing. Because if we do what you're talking about and we get Abdul Carter at 3, which is not a bad idea, if we do that, then what happens to the quarterback in the rest of the draft? I mean, just to talk about Tyler Shuck, I mean, he's older, but he got all the other tools that you want in a quarterback. But will it help Joe Schoen keep his job? If you're Joe Schoen, you want to drag this thing out as long as humanly possible. You will make this thing last. The only way you can do that is maybe get a guy that is maybe not ready. But you satisfy John Morris' request that John Morris said. Only reason why John Morris said that Shane was still here because he never got a chance to draft his quarterback technically, right? Excluding the Daniel Jones fiasco, right? So now you get a chance to draft his quarterback wherever he does it at. We talked about Will Howard. I made him my so-called pick to be the best fit for us, even though it's late. Maybe at 4, maybe Tyler Shuck, because they have all the tools, the so-called prototype that Daboll and Shane seem to like, that they had in Josh Allen. I was making a comparison there. Not that they are Josh Allen, but comparison in style and
6'4", 6'5",
they had to look right. They had to look.
30,
so if they do that, that buys Shane time, and I don't know why he wouldn't want to have that. So what he needs is more time. I'm saying because he hasn't used the time he has very well. The draft's been going good for him. Last year's draft was good. The guys overproduced, so that's a check mark on his side. But beyond that, the quarterback thing is a real thing. So to me, I'm sitting here like, okay, you take Abdul Carter and get a quarterback late. I ain't gonna be mad at that. I'll be okay.
I think that's what they should do with this. But late is the key word, like you said.
Late.
Yeah, and not round 2.
Back in the first round because we can't afford to give no picks up. First of all, we ain't got no comps next year, so we can't be messing around.
Yeah,
so we got to make this.
And worst case scenario, if you take a Will Howard, who I like, if it's in the right area, if you take a Will Howard round 4, round 5, worst case scenario, and probably the likely scenario, he's a backup. But with what backups make in today's NFL, and Joe Schoen said it, I think, in his press conference, that's a bargain. If you could get a backup quarterback in the 5th round and pay him less than $1 million a year or whatever their salary is for the first 4 years of his career. So even if he doesn't become a starter, it's still worth the pick. I mean, you see what some of these backups get. They get $10 million a year. So I'm completely for taking a quarterback. I just don't love the idea. If you're not going to take one at 3, which I'm completely on board with if they want to do it, if you're not going to take one at 3, just wait until early day 3. That's my mindset at the quarterback position. But I do think
I'm with you on that. I got a real feeling that I think that I don't know if you can relate to this, but sometimes as fans, I really feel like before we get to our next question, I feel as though we ignore the obvious, like it's right there in front of us. What they did with bringing in Jameis and Wilson at the contract in the years they brought him in at, I think they tell us what they're going to do. I can't see a team bringing those 2 guys in and taking a quarterback at 3. it don't make any sense in my brain. You got a guy on a 2-year deal who's still young. I mean, he can throw the ball down the field, which is something we haven't seen in how many years now? Yeah. So he can throw the ball down the field, and we need to have that with guys like Neighbors out there and Wandale. We need to have somebody throwing the ball down the field. So Winston's going to help us out with that part. And Wilson, well, he does other things well, put it like that. Maybe not perhaps that middle of the field stuff. But you don't get those two guys in here on those deals and bring in a quarterback at 3 and
he's not going to play. He's not going to play the first year, or at least the first half of the year, right. And that's the argument against it. And I get that. Yeah.
So I think they're going to be developmental. We're going to take some time.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of talk. If we take Abdullah 3, are we going to be what kind of like NASCAR packages are we going to be running with him? Kayvon Burns, on the outside, Dex in the middle. If we take a defensive tackle, whether it's Harmon if he falls, Nolan if he falls, maybe a Tyleek Williams, or maybe we wait till the 3rd round if he's there. I think it's Alfred Collins out of Texas, just one of those guys put next to Dex in the middle there. How would that look? Because now all of a sudden there's all this talk. I don't know how much of it is real or not about trading Kayvon. For me, like if a team's gonna throw like a 2nd and a 4th for Kayvon, kind of almost similar to what we gave up for Burns, but in this case it would be you don't really have to pay him this year. He's a young on the rise prospect, but if you're willing to give us all of that, sure. I'm not looking to trade away talent. That's one of the main issues. Not to mention, especially if he continues to improve, he's a bit better at setting the edge, or at least he can be, than because of his size than Burns, or I think realistically Carter it will be. Again, just the frame and the weight, that they have. Like Burns, Carter, they're speed guys, they're finesse guys. Kayvon can provide a little bit of power on the outside. I don't want them to potentially trade him away. Let's rotate him, see what you got. We have the 5th-year option. Am I crazy?
No, I'm the only scenario where I see where the Giants should even consider trading Kayvon Thibodeau is if they feel like it's going to be a detriment to the locker room. Like if Kayvon gets to the point where he's not happy that the fact that they drafted Abdul Carter and his role is reduced, and he's looking for a payday, and there's disruption in the locker room. At that point, you do what you have to do. But outside of something like that, I see no reason to trade Kayvon Thibodeau. I saw somebody on Twitter, I forgot who it was, New York Giants Daily, who I like. I met him at a Giants game. He's got a huge Twitter following. He said, he kind of is like, how are you going to give him $15 million as a rotational edge rusher on the 5th-year option? I said, $15 million? $50 million is nothing in today's NFL for a rotational edge rusher. That's what like a backup quarterback gets. Backup quarterbacks get 10, 11 We just saw Darius Slayton get $12 million a year. It's going to be an increased market next year. That's like 13 or 14. You're telling me a productive situational edge isn't as important as Darius Slayton? I beg to differ. So I don't think $15 million is a whole lot on the 5th-year option for Kayvon Thibodeau. So, yeah, I'm completely with you. I think you make it work, and you see what you got. And if Kayvon continues to improve and get better, let's not forget, he has shown glimpses of the possibility of being an elite player. He hasn't done it nearly enough, and he's had injuries. He was banged up last year, but the possibility is there. You're blind if you don't see that. He hasn't done it enough. I'll be the first to say it. He's had 3-4 games where he has completely taken the game over, and you hope with an improved line, if you draft a guy like Carter, he gets better if he could stay healthy. And the other thing, the timeline could work, because I don't have the Brian Burns contract in front of me, but who's to say after 2 or 3 years you don't move off Brian Burns and then use that money to extend Kayvon if Kayvon's playing well? So I'm with you, man. I'm not about giving up on him. The other thing I'll say for people that are like, trade him while you could get something. Well, no, keep him. Let him be a situational edge, even if he's not in the long-term plans. If he plays well, we see what these edge rushers get on the open market. So if somebody gives him $35, $40 million a year, there's your trade. You get your comp pick for him. So that's my mindset on it, man. You don't give up on talent. You don't give up on young talent. He's talented, and I think he should only get better if you get a guy like Abdul Carter in there.
I'm just gonna. Sorry, Yusuf. I just have 2 things that I want to.
Yeah, you can't help yourself, huh?
I can't help myself. But one is, no. I completely agree. I completely agree with you, because I think something that a lot of people aren't as familiar with is that they'll see Kayvon 15 million. The number is almost irrelevant these days with how much the cap has been increasing, particularly this last year, with I think it's been the largest increase in recent memory. What's the most important is how much of a percentage of the cap is he taking up? Because the number is going to be next to is irrelevant. The reason so many people were high enough on the DJ deal is because one of the out, and two, the idea that because it's only 40 million when some guys are starting to get 50 at that point, you know, that in a couple of years with the cap increasing, that 40 million, even if we kept him on the roster, was going to be at least viewed as a bit more of a bargain.
The way I looked at that deal when the Giants signed it, and obviously it didn't work out. We don't need to relive it. But the way I looked at that deal when the Giants signed it was even if DJ matched what he did in 2022, the contract would have been well worth it because he was an average starting NFL quarterback in 2022. In 2023, $40 million, that's less than an average starting quarterback. And if you exclude the rookie salary for guys that are on second contracts. So that's the way I looked at it. I said, another year with Daboll, he should only get better. It blew up in our faces. But the contract, even if he didn't become a franchise quarterback, it still could have made sense. That's the way I looked at that contract. It didn't work.
And then the second thing that I want to, and this kind of goes back to like the toxicity of the Giants Twitter fandom, is every year it just annoys me to no end when I see all these people, the trade deadlines coming up, you know, like, oh, why didn't we trade this guy? Why didn't we trade that? And it's like, okay, this past year, what did you want? Like a fifth or a sixth for Aziz or something? Like, that's not worth it. That's not worth it, especially since we still have all this time to possibly get a deal done. And lo and behold, we got a deal done with Schoen, I think, to everybody's surprise, especially with
I didn't think he was
especially with the amount we got him for. I thought he was going to go out and get like 15, 16 million. We got him for what, 12
million,
you know, so like just kind of bringing it back to the state of you know, Giants Twitter, you know, just it's one of those things where no one's going to be happy if we trade Kayvon, unless I think the only way every single Giants fan would be happy with us trading Kayvon is if we got a first-round pick.
And you're not getting
which
that.
We're not going to get.
Yeah.
This is no pleasing everybody here.
Yeah.
So just wanted to circle back to that.
You good now? You feel better now? You good?
I needed to get that off my chest. There are times I want to get in there. I want to. Well, what do you want? What do you want? Insert Giants fan account here. Like what do you want? A 5th round pick, a 6th round pick for Aziz? You know, like
we got to realize that Giants fans are miserable and they have a right to be miserable, and they're looking for anything to complain about. That's just the reality of the situation. They're not going to be happy until
that's my hometown, so I already know all that. I know all that. I've seen it. I've lived it. I've tasted it, smelled it. I know it. I know why they're doing why they acting.
I don't remember the 70s.
That's true. You live in New York. That's a good way to put it. Yeah,
my first memory as a Giants fan was 2007. I was about 7 years old at the time, and I wanted to stay up to watch the second. I wanted to stay up to watch the second half of the game against the Packers in the NFC Championship. But it was a late night. My parents were like, "No, you're going to bed. You're not staying up to watch this whole thing." So next morning, I woke up at like 6 a.m. as a young kid does, and I race to my parents' room to ask them, "Did we win? Did we win?" And in my excitement, I didn't see that my parents taped a sign to my door on the inside saying, "We won. Don't wake us up." And that was my first memory. That's the first vivid memory I have of Giants fandom. So 4 years after that, I get to see another Super Bowl. And since I've become old enough to like really be a fan, spend my own money on, you know, shirts and hats and a giant Eli Manning sticker on my wall, it's been nothing but misery.
It's been a disaster. Yeah, we paid for it with those 2 Super Bowls. We paid. For it.
I don't know who we gave our soul to.
Let my voice comfort you, Jess. It's going to be okay. Okay. It's going to be okay.
I hope so.
I'm going to ask Tina a couple of questions. Okay, you keep breathing. It's going to be okay. Okay. This is what I deal with y'all every single week, man. This is crazy. But okay, I got 2 questions here. Now, one, we're talking about Abdul Carter and whether Kayvon and whether we should trade. I'm like, okay, the Giants love to get linebackers that have a pass rush abilities, and that's fine. That's a good thing. We got Burns, he's considered a linebacker, so is Kayvon. What I want to ask you about, my first question is, why are we not talking about replacing DJ Davidson? Why are we not talking about replacing Nunez?
I think we're going to. I think we're drafting a D-tackle early.
Those two guys right there. I mean, if we get, I heard Just loves Nolan. I think I do too. I like him a lot. I'm not sure if I'm in love yet, but he is for sure. I mean, having him replace Nunez Roaches or Davidson's at nose tackle, I think. So replacing him and Roaches, I mean, that's what we should be focusing on, because those two guys, I mean, I don't have the numbers in front of me. We can either just I can pull it up, but they haven't been blowing our mind with their play.
Our run defense has been pitiful. The last 2-3 years, our run defense has been pitiful.
We can improve in those two spots. How about we focus on that instead of talking about trying to trade Kayvon, somebody who's talented, that's getting better. He's not developing; he's getting better. He had an injury, so that slowed down some things there.
He got hurt.
How about we replace Nunez Roaches and Davis? Let's focus on replacing those two guys in the draft. Let's do that, because that makes more sense. Instead of giving talent away, let's retain talent for once. I know it's a crazy concept. Retain talent. Who does that?
I'm gonna tell you what, and I'm probably gonna do a mock draft like a few days before the draft. I am tempted to want the Giants to take 2 defensive tackles between picks 34 and 102 or 103 or whatever it is, because this draft class, if you speak to any expert, is loaded at that position. That is the strength of this draft class, is the D tackle spot. I'd be stunned if the Giants don't end up with one in their first 3 rounds. I think that we're taking one in the second round. But I wouldn't be surprised if we take 2 between picks 34 and 102 or whatever it is, because that's the strength of this draft. And we need that on the defense more than anything else. We've addressed the secondary in free agency. We assume we're going to address the edge rusher with our first pick. And like I just said, man, we've been awful against the run the last 2 years. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if they take 2 defensive tackles. And I definitely think we're taking one, probably at pick number 34.
I've seen the mocks for that. I seen the mocks where 2 DTs went. Yeah. I love me some Schlesinger from UCLA though.
Yeah, I like him too. I like Nolan. You guys brought up Nolan. I don't know if he'll be there.
I like him too.
But if he gets there, I'd be happy.
That would be a dream come true for me. I think he could be like another Dexter Lawrence.
He's supposed to be breathing, man. He's supposed to be breathing right now. He should be breathing.
But I think realistically, I think Harmon has a chance to fall into the second just because of like how teams value defensive, tackle, like a real Nolan, I don't see realistic.
I agree. I think he goes at mid-20s. I don't think he'll get to us.
Yeah, I think Tyleek Williams will be there.
All depends, guys. All depends. One position one in the first round can change everything we're talking about.
You're right. You don't know.
I mean, a one on a certain position.
If I would have told you in 2021 that we were going to get Xavier McKinney in the second round, you would have called me a lunatic. So you never know. Players drop. Right? Everybody had him going 15 to the Cowboys, and he fell all the way to the second round. So you never know. You're right.
Yeah. What was it? The 2021 draft now with Aziz leaving to the Eagles to go have a career year where he's healthy the entire time for, no discernible reason. I don't think there's a single player from that draft class that's still on the team.
Yeah, I misspoke. McKinney was 2020. The 2021 draft, you hit it on the head. There's not one right now. They're all gone. That was again maybe parting gift with that draft class. That was all.
Yeah, I don't mean to make you guys feel old, but do you guys remember any draft class as bad as how that 2021 class? I mean, because I can't think of one.
Reese had some bad ones at the second half.
There's some bad ones in the Reese.
Yeah, the second half.
Right now, they are some.
I really was able to I locked in essentially around 2016 with when I started watching Odell, and I remember watching the one-handed catch in the basement with my dad. And we were just like, oh my God, this kid's insane. And that's kind of what made me really start, paying attention. But around 2016, when I was out with friends and we were at like a restaurant, and they're all like focusing on the food. I'm watching Giants Cowboys week 1 of 2016, absolutely locked in. And I'm like, okay, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life, I guess. Just to lock in on this team.
Yeah.
So,
You talked about it last week too, man. Last week or week before, 2018 was a horrible one too.
Yeah.
I mean, the highlights were DeAndre Baker and Kyle Lalletta. I'm like, that's not good. So
yeah,
those are
Reese's first like 4 drafts were good for the most part, and then his last like 6 were awful. But 2021, it's hard not to say it's, if not the worst, certainly among the worst, because like
Kadarius Toney.
Kadarius Toney.
Say.
Now, to be, if you're going to grade it fairly, we did trade back and get future draft capital, so that has to, I guess, be factored into that class. That resulted in Evan Neal,
Micah Parsons, Rashawn Slater still on the board there. It's
that,
but I don't know if you guys saw, but I think Kadarius Toney is now officially retired to full-time pursue a career as a rapper.
What was that draft class? You had Toney, you had Aziz, you had, and then everybody else was garbage.
Hold on. Let me bring it up.
Was that Darnay Holmes? Was that him in that draft? Or was he drafted before?
Think
20,
so.
He was in 21 or 22. I don't remember which one. I think in the 4th round in one of those picks. Yeah. But while he's trying to find that,
hold on here. I got it. So it went Toney, Aziz, Aaron Robinson.
I liked him. He never
Smith.
panned out. Always hurt. Yeah.
Ellerson Smith, Gary Brightwell, Rodarius Williams.
Awful.
Just
I didn't understand any of that.
Yeah.
and I will
I
say
wasn't as high on Robinson as you are, man. You were higher on Robinson than I was. I didn't see it.
2023 has the potential to be looked at and just be heinously terrible. I still have some optimism for Banks, JMS, even Hyatt with the right quarterback. But 2022, I think, obviously you would hope for a lot more out of 2 first-round picks. Neal's been an absolute bust. I give Kayvon currently like a C+, B-.
C+.
But he did get some value with like Micah McFadden down the line. I think and
Wandell's like a B- pick right now, maybe a C+.
Like there's been some like nothing quite that bad. And then 2024, as of right now, again, only a year, a lot of time. That was arguably the best draft class of any team last year in terms of like value and potential there, I would say. I mean, there were some more bigger immediate impacts, like the 2 corners that Philly got that I don't know how they got both of them. But
Andrew Phillips was a pleasant surprise because he was actually a guy that a lot of Giants fans hated that pick when the Giants made it.
I didn't like it. I will be the first to admit. I wanted what's his face? He went to the Cowboys, that guard that I think they're playing at center out of Kansas State.
Oh, BB was it? Is it?
Yeah, BB. Yeah. I wanted him so badly for the Giants.
Yeah, I liked him too. But yeah, I didn't hate the pick, but yeah, I wasn't like thrilled with it. But he had obviously a really impressive rookie year. Goes without saying, Malik Neighbors, who I think is going to be, if not the best receiver in the league, top 2 or 3. Like he's that talented.
I think,
yeah. I mean, dude, and I still think Newbin's going to be really good. I think he showed glimpses last year. Obviously, Tyrone Tracy for a 5th round pick, you can't really argue there. So really, so
I like Theo Johnson too. I loved that pick, and I thought he showed flashes. If we just need him to stay healthy.
Who'd you say?
Theo Johnson.
Oh, I love the Theo Johnson pick. Yeah, the 4th round. He was a good pick.
That's my guy right there.
Yeah.
Absolutely behemoth of a person.
Yeah.
Let me go ahead and jump in and grab the second question. It's been 10 minutes. I didn't get into it yet.
Sorry.
I go on and on. Who's the 2 or 3 non-first round guys, Chaina, that you think are best fits for Big Blue? 2 or 3 guys that are not in the first round that you think are best fits. I know you like Nolan, but do you think that he's one of the 3? Best fits for the Giants?
The guys that I'm looking at in the second round are D tackles. Nolan's one of them. Harmon, I don't think will get. He could get there. I'd be happy with him. Kenneth Grant, TJ Sanders, like those are the guys I'm looking at. D tackles there in that second round. That I'm like almost, unless they go quarterback, which if they were to go quarterback there, which I do not want, I think it'd be a mistake. I guess. Oh man, I really don't like him. But I get like the ceiling talk with Jalen Milroe, but I don't like him as a prospect. He's got super small hands. He can throw a good deep ball. He's really fun to watch when he runs with the football. He definitely has like a Lamar Jackson quality but the guy with intermediate throws is a complete project. But worst case scenario, he turns into a Taysom Hill, I guess, and you get some value that way. But I guess if they had to take a quarterback, it would be him for me, because I just don't really like anyone there, and I guess he has the highest ceiling. I really hope they don't take a quarterback. But yeah, second round, I'm looking at D tackle. All the guys we've been talking about. That's where my head that pick at pick 34.
Okay.
Yeah.
How about you, Jess? Who are 2 or 3 guys that not in the first round you think are best fits? You can name the guys you've been talking about on the show already if you want to, but that's fine.
Yeah,
that's the low hanging fruit.
And like Tana, I've been thinking nothing but defensive tackle there for the second round. I would absolutely love pretty much any of those guys. Maybe if we were to go, like if we go Abdul Carter in the first, and then we want to go look at the secondary, because like obviously they've been taking a hard look at Hunter.
Yeah.
If he's there, a guy that I think has a lot of upside could be Siobhan Revel. I went to ECU. The guy's a beast. Maybe a Benjamin Morrison, but these guys have that injury concern with them, particularly Morrison with multiple hip surgeries now. And for a corner, you don't love that. But if things check out, he was arguably the best corner in college football over Will Johnson, over Hunter, before that injury.
You know why you're having that.
Trey Amos, again, I don't necessarily, if there's a run on corners, which I think there could be in the first, I could definitely see a team like the Vikings taking him, like in the early to mid 20s. Maybe Buffalo would take him, but they just re-signed Tre'Davious White, I think it was today. Yeah. So, maybe a guy like him falls, but I don't necessarily know if he does. There's some wide receivers. The guy at Iowa State, was it Higgins?
I got a question about that too, but I want to go out of
Kyle Williams out of Washington State has gotten a lot of love. So there are alternatives, but I think defensive tackles where you
I just feel like it's our biggest need, like we talked about, at least on the defensive end. And it's the strength of the draft. I just think it's a perfect marriage with that second round pick at 34. I'd be real, unless it's a quarterback. Like I said, that won't surprise me. But unless it's a quarterback, I can't see it not being a D. I shouldn't say can't see it, but I'd be very surprised if it's not a D tackle. And then just to the third round, like I said, I think that could be a running back round for the Giants. Whether it's with the first pick in the third round or the comp pick that we got, I expect a running back with one of those 2 picks with all the guys they brought in. I think Judkins is an interesting guy out of Ohio State. Scatteroo, possible. I would love Hampton if he fell to 34. I'm not a huge running back guy early, but I just think he's worth the pick. Like, he's that good of a playmaker. So that's also what I have my eye on, because if you look at the pattern and what they brought in for their top 30 visits, and again, the strength of this class, running back, D tackle, that's all you've heard. There's a lot of talent in the middle of the draft at both of those positions. So I think we'll be going to running. I think after the first round, out of those next 3 picks, at least one will be a D tackle and one will be a running back.
I like it. Man, it's just going to really show if these guys are good at drafting, because that's going to be the strength of the draft. We're going to see if they're going to lean into it or they're going to ignore it. But Jess had a question about Travis Hunter. I guess a news story came out about him, or a quote out of his mouth, I guess, that was attributed to him anyways. Go ahead, Jess. Ask Timmy a question about Travis Hunter.
Yeah. So everybody right now, it seems like it's going Ward, Hunter, Carter. However, Hunter recently came out and said, I don't know if you saw this quote, if I can't play both ways, I'm just not going to play football, or something to that effect. I don't have the exact quote in front of me, but that's essentially what he's saying. If you don't let me play both ways, don't pick me. I'm not going to play for you. If that scares the Browns, one, do you even think anybody can do that in the NFL? Like full-time, both ways?
No.
But
I don't. I've seen a lot of people. I'm not saying he can't play both ways. I think he can, but you said full time. I don't think he can play both ways full time. I've seen a lot of people
80,
bring
20.
up, 80-20. Like, I think that, or 120 maybe, 100 side on a corner, and then 20% of the time at the wide receiver spot. But no way he's playing 70 snaps on both sides of the ball. And I've seen people bring up the fact that college is faster paced, so he'd actually take less snaps at the NFL level. Well, that's all well and good. First off, players are small at the collegiate level. Secondly, you play 12 games. You don't play 17 plus playoffs. So people talk about the injury history with Abdul Carter, and they're worried about that. Rightfully so, right? He does have the foot injury, which could be lingering, shoulder injury. I think that's warranted for people that are worried about that, especially with the Giants' history with injuries. But I'm equally, if not more, scared of the potential injuries with a guy like Travis Hunter if you plan to play him in that capacity that often on both sides of the ball. And I don't think that will happen. He will get to play on both sides, but it's not going to be full-time. That's not happening.
If he does somehow end up a Giant, I would prefer corner full-time, wide receiver part-time, because something that I heard, I don't know if you guys really how much like sports talk TV, but one of my favorites, if not my favorite, is First Things First on Fox Sports. And they have coach, I'm trying to remember his name. He was a former Patriot coach. He worked with Belichick. And one of the things he was bringing up is it just makes more sense that way because you can control the pace on offense. You can run an 11 Hunter personnel or some kind of package. You control that. Yeah. If you're only having him part-time on defense, the opposing team will control your substitutions. The opposing team can choose, Hunter's not out there. Let's run these plays. Let's run a hurry up. Let's not let them get him back in because he needed a breather because of the sheer, toll it's kind of taken on his body over the course of the game or just how exhausted he is. If you're on offense, you can put him in, take him out whenever you feel like. But there's a lot more money to be made as a wide receiver these days. Is he going to have that preference? He hasn't made it sound like, look, if I'm playing 80-21 way, put me at wide receiver. I haven't heard him say anything like that. But
the thing is, I think he could be very impactful, even if he only takes a quarter of the snaps on the offensive side of the ball, because you put him in packages, third and long packages, goal line packages, game on the line, 10 minutes to go in the fourth quarter in close games. He plays every snap on the, like, you pick your spots with him. I still think he could be really impactful as a part-time wide receiver, but there's no way he's playing every snap on that side of the ball if he's playing every snap on the defensive side of the ball.
I really hope for his sake he doesn't let me play full-time.
So let me ask you this. So if that happens and that quote is true and it scares the Browns off, and I heard some scenario that was kind of earlier on in our pre-draft coverage, I guess you could say. So the Titans take Ward at 1. The Browns are scared about what Hunter says, so they ain't going to bring that drama to their life because they got plenty of drama in Cleveland. They take Abdul Carter. Are we taking Hunter?
Yeah,
without question.
Yeah, I think we're locked in on either Hunter or Carter. That's how I really feel right now.
Okay.
And Joe Schoen had glowing reviews about him when you listen to his press conference yesterday, and he said he wouldn't even think twice about. I mean, I'm paraphrasing a bit, but the vibe he gave off was that he wouldn't even think twice about giving the opportunity to play on both sides of the ball. I think the Giants would love. I just don't think he'll be there. If you look, one interesting pattern I noticed. If you look at the top 30 visits last year for the New York Giants, and with Joe Schoen, I think when you're trying to project what he's going to do in the draft, at least history shows that's important. You look at all of his early picks; they've all been top 30 visits. Like picks between rounds 1 and 3, almost every single player has been a top 30 visit. His top 30 visits last year, 9 of them out of the 30, so nearly 33%, were projected first-round picks. Joe Alt, Rome Odunze, the 3 wide receivers, Rome Odunze, Marvin Harrison, Neighbors, and 5 quarterbacks, Bo Nix, Michael Penix, J.J. McCarthy.
I want it all so bad.
Drake May.
I wanted him so bad.
This year, he's only brought in 2 guys that are projected to go in the first round for top 30 visits, and Travis Hunter wasn't one of them. So, and I don't think it's because he's not interested in Travis Hunter. I think it's for the same reason why he didn't bring in Caleb Williams last year. He knows he's not getting him. I think the Giants know Cleveland's taking Travis Hunter. Maybe I'll be dead wrong on draft night, but I think the signs point to that. Cleveland brought their owner to the Colorado Pro Day. Everybody thought that was for Shedeur. I think it was for Hunter. I think he's going to Cleveland, and that's why I'm pretty confident. I think we're going to get Carter.
I think right now the top 3 is kind of set: Ward, Hunter, Carter, and I think that's where it is.
Yeah,
we'll see.
So,
We'll see,
you know,
never
let's I want to kind of take this maybe a bit more of a positive, you know, a little less draft focused. You know, kind of end things here on a more optimistic note. Tana, what was your like happiest memory as a Giants fan?
Oh,
Like,
that's
what
easy.
was your like just when things get dark? That's the clip you go look up on YouTube.
That's easy. I mean, well, listen, there's so many. I'm born in 85. I started watching the Giants religiously around the same age that you said you were 7, 8, 93, 94. Rodney Hampton, Charlie Way. Those were the Giants that I grew up watching early on, basically right after the LT era, unfortunately.
Your guys got me feeling old, boy. Oh my goodness.
But that was when I started watching. I named my first dog Tiki. You know, when I got an opportunity to name my first dog, I named her Tiki. He was the first player I fell in love with. Didn't like the way he ended, with the way that he talked about Coughlin and Eli. But since we've forgiven him for that, of course, my favorite Giant is the guy that you have behind you. My favorite athlete of all time is the guy you have behind you. It's easy. My favorite memory. I mean, listen, you play to win the game, as Herm Edwards likes to say. It's got to be the 2007 Super Bowl run, not just the Super Bowl itself. That entire run. You got to remember, Eli Manning got embarrassed his first playoff game when he played, I think it was the Carolina Panthers. The Giants couldn't get it past the 50-yard line in that game. They didn't get past midfield, Eli Manning's first playoff game. The next year they play the Eagles. They get smacked. Going into 2007, a lot of people think Eli's on the skids. He has the 4-interception game against the Vikings. People are burning his jerseys in the parking lot. People are calling for Tom Coughlin's job. And if they don't beat the Bucs that first game in the playoffs against Jeff Garcia, history's different, man. Eli Manning may have been replaced for all I know. Tom Coughlin may have gotten fired. The Giants beat Jeff Garcia for Eli's first playoff win, and they don't look back. They have the great win on the road against the Dallas Cowboys. They have the great one of the most underrated, I think, drives of that entire Super Bowl run is the drive the Giants had right before halftime against the Cowboys in that game. I think they had like 50 seconds left. Eli Manning took them 80 yards down the field. Amani Toomer had 2 huge plays. Giants took the lead into halftime. They ended up winning that game against the Cowboys. Of course, the unforgettable game in negative 1,000-degree temperatures in Green Bay, like you talked about, where Tom Coughlin's face looks like it's falling off. I still say to this day, the greatest game a wide receiver. I am biased. I'm a Giants fan, but I'll say it. The greatest game in the history of the NFL by a wide receiver, when you factor in the conditions of that game, the guy that was guarding him in Al Harris, Plaxico Burress was insane that day. I think he had 11 catches for 130 yards. Incredible game, right? With the conditions.
He was injured too, right?
I don't think Brett Favre, if I'm not mistaken, had lost. Maybe it was one. I don't think he had lost a playoff game at Lambeau Field his entire career. Maybe one before that game. He goes in there, he beats him. And then, of course, the undefeated Patriots. I mean, come on. So, yeah, I mean, but I could go over so many great memories. The Mario Manning. But I'll say that, like I said, I'm a huge Eli fan. Like, Eli, love him to death. My favorite moment for a player, not my favorite moment overall, because that's got to be the 2007 Super Bowl run. My favorite moment for a player was the 2011 NFC Championship game.
I was just about to bring this game up. I was just about to bring that up.
That was the day. You know, even then, Giants fans were still kind of split on Eli Manning. You know, there were more that liked him, obviously, than didn't, because he had already won that Super Bowl. And that was Eli Manning's elite year, right? Everybody said going into the year he's not elite. He was elite start to finish. Anybody that tells you otherwise is an idiot. Yeah. He was incredible that entire year, start to finish. All the comeback victories, carrying that team. They had the worst rushing attack in football in the regular season. Defense was awful in the regular season because they were
fourth or fifth worst defense, worst running game. Eli still goes for nearly 5,000
yards. And yeah, I mean, that 49ers game, though, the stats may not be gaudy in that game, but dude, the beating that he took in that game, like I fell in love with Eli Manning after that game. I'm like, I will die for this guy.
Brother.
I'll defend this guy till the death after that game.
Our respect level went to here.
Yeah.
That was the game, I think, where the photo of him, helmet askew, jersey off the shoulder pad, full Manning face. You know, like
he had like 50 dropbacks in that game. He didn't throw one interception against the best.
Yeah,
he got hit like 30
I think
times.
He was knocked down 15, 16 times that game. It was. I think at that point, no quarterback in football in the history of the playoffs had taken more of like a beating or something. It was like some insane.
And let's not forget my favorite Eli Manning stat. That 2011 playoff run, still to this day, the most yards ever thrown by a quarterback in a single playoff. Everybody
doesn't have it.
That
Brady doesn't
narrative
have it.
that you always hear that the defense carried Eli Manning. Bullshit. No, they didn't.
Every time someone brings that up,
baby.
All right, I'm going to say something that I don't know if this is going to be controversial. I think if Plaxico Burress doesn't shoot himself, that 2008 team goes down as the best Giants team of all time. I think they win the Super Bowl. They had already not just been, but I think they had handed all four of the final four teams that year. They had beaten all of them.
Well, they beat, if I'm not mistaken, they beat the Steelers and the Cardinals, the two teams that went to the Super Bowl on the road that year.
I think, what was it? The Saints with Breeze, I think it was in 08 that played the Cardinals. Was that it in the NFC Championship game? Like they'd beaten every single conference championship team that year, if I'm not mistaken. Especially the two teams that made it. I think they go on. I think they win it all, and I think that is the best Giants team of all time.
I can't say because I didn't get to see the Giants in their heyday in the 80s, so I can't speak because I know the 86 team that's the cream of the crop.
That's the gold standard. Right?
But what I could tell you is this: in my lifetime, that Giants team, that 2008 team, is the only time I've been a Giants fan in my entire life where I knew what it felt like to root for the best team on the planet. It was not even close for those first 12, 13 games. They were by far the best team in the NFL. You knew they were going to run the ball. You couldn't stop them anyway. One of my favorite games of all time was the Ravens game in 2008 when the Ravens had the best run defense in football and the Giants threw the ball like 10 times because the Ravens couldn't stop them. They just kept jamming the ball down their throat. They ran for over 200 yards against them. One of my favorite games of all time was that game against that Ravens team. It was like midway through the season. But yeah, and one of the craziest stats for me, when you think about how bad it is right now, when you go back to 2007, the Giants, don't forget, started 0-2 that year. They won the Super Bowl, and they nearly started 0-3. They had a goal line stand against Washington. People were ready to give up on Steve Spagnuolo. They gave up 80 points the first two games that year. Then all of a sudden, defense started to click. If you go week 3 on, up until when Plax shot himself during that stretch, and you include the playoffs, the New York Giants were 20-5. Including wins against the undefeated Patriots. That was dominance. We had almost 2 years, when you combine the games of straight dominance, 25 straight games where they were the best team on the planet.
Well,
we need to get back.
I did see that. I did see their first, theoretically their first Super Bowl against Denver. It was a blowout, beat them by 19. I did actually see that. Elway had about 304 yards and one touchdown pass. Sims had about 260, 270, and
that
had
was the
3
perfect quarterback rating that game, right? I think Sims
was 22 of 25 or something.
Yeah, they beat the Broncos up. So that was the first time I seen in my lifetime, which is a lot. You guys are reminding me of that every time you guys talk. But in my lifetime, where I saw them dominate in a Super Bowl. We got dominated by the Ravens, but we dominated the Broncos in that Super Bowl. It was magic. But
you want to talk? You brought up that horrible Ravens game. You want to talk about the most numb I've ever felt as a Giants fan? 2000 Super Bowl against the Baltimore Ravens. First off, the Ravens smacking us. They were just a better team. They smacked us the entire first.
Yeah, but did we come to play though?
Didn't feel like it.
With that part, but it felt like we weren't there.
Didn't feel like it. Didn't feel like
fight back because this is New York, the Mecca. We live our lives on grit and toughness. Fight back. We scored 7 points.
And that's where I was going to say where I was numb. First half, they completely dominate us. I think they called, what was it, Jesse Armstead? They called a penalty on, and it kind of just completely changed the game. But where I felt the numbest, Giants, first play of the second half, return the kick for a touchdown. You're at a Super Bowl party. You're like, oh, we're kind of in this again. We're right back in it. The next play, they kick off, and the Ravens run it back for a touchdown. And that was the numbest I've ever felt as a Giants fan. I was in awe. I was like, what just happened? That was the numbest.
We answered the greatest and the worst memories. We took care of that before the show closes. So that's good. Yeah. Man, but brother, this was fantastic, man. I hope this isn't the last time you come on, man. You are insightful, man. And great character, man, and you know your Giants football, man. So we were so glad to have you on here, man. Thank you for doing this, man, and we definitely appreciate you answering all our crazy questions and dealing with Jess's emotional balance. I'm just messing around, Jess, but this is really good. Thank you, man, for doing this, man. This was fantastic, man.
Yeah,
big time fun.
Man. It was like I said, my pleasure. I always like coming on, talking with Giants fans, and had a blast. And yeah, it seems like you guys have great chemistry. I wish you nothing but luck, continued success with your podcast. And anytime you guys want me to come on, I'll try to make time.
You shouldn't have said that. Now it's going to happen for real. Now you are first ever guest.
Regular.
You go down in history, man. You are first ever guest. You go down in history, brother. Nobody can say they did the first. You're it, man. So. Tell everybody where they can find your work, man. Where they can find your Giant stuff, man. Let everybody know.
Entertainah Token Sports, right there, just like it's spelled. If you're not subscribed to me on YouTube, check me out. I talk Giants. Don't do it nearly as frequently as I used to. Maybe I'll get back to it. We'll see. Full time, we'll see. But love talking Giants, especially in season. And of course, you'll see me on Twitter getting into fights with people on the other side. So,
hey, brother, tell you what, you tag us in it if you're in a fight and it's starting to get outnumbered, go ahead and tag us in. We'll come in and help you. Not a problem. Just tag us in the conversation. All right, brother?
Absolutely, man. It was a pleasure getting to meet you.
Thank you, man. This was fun, man. Justin, any last words, brother?
You took him out of my mouth. Thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for responding. Hope to have you on again in the future. We'll definitely tag you in some, post-draft, hey, thoughts on this, we got 1 week, and then
knock this draft out of the park. Let's knock this draft out of the park.
Let's make 2024 look like 2023 with how good this draft ends up being.
I'll be live myself, but if maybe I'll try to swing in if you got. I don't know how early you're going live, but I go live every year for the draft myself. But
5 minutes to 8.
Yeah, that's
5 minutes to 8.
Yeah. Otherwise, I would have popped in, but I'll be live myself.
I guess before we go, I know you're a big New York sports fan. What are your thoughts, Knicks Pistons? We winning this?
Yeah, I think we're going to beat the Pistons. Young team, up-and-coming team, fun team. Cunningham's a great player. I think the Knicks will beat the Pistons. I think it could be a tougher series than some Knicks fans may think, though. I could see it going 6. But yeah, I think the Knicks, they're not beating Boston. I'm not going to say never. I'm a Knicks. I love the Knicks as much as I love the Giants. So I pray that they beat Boston. I do think they can give them a series. I don't think we've seen the best version of the Knicks this year. I feel like they've been kind of easing into the playoffs. They've been resting their guys. Thibodeau, for once, has actually been smart about that. Last 10, 15 games of the season. We got Mitch back for about the last 20 games. He got his legs under him, so I feel like he's more prepared for the playoffs. So while I don't think we'll beat Boston, I do think it'll be a good series. I think they'll give them a fight. Maybe it goes 6, maybe 7. Unfortunately, I don't think we'll beat them, though. I just think they're too good.
I'm in the same boat as you there, but before we get
we could be here
another hour if we wanted to talk.
We're ending on a positive note. This is not a positive note.
I think they're playing well. So that's 6. I think, and then I agree. I think at our best, I think we can give Boston a fight, and you never know.
Yeah, that's the beauty of it. You never know. You never know. And if you beat Boston, maybe you can knock off Cleveland's going to be tough too, man. Cleveland's going to be tough.
They're really good.
Yeah.
Oh, you guys, man. You guys are bringing me down.
You never know, though, man. That's the beauty of it.
Yankees are doing good. I'll say that much.
Average 40 again. Let's see.
I mean, on paper, you would think with Mitch, if you're getting the real Mitch, OG's an incredible individual defender. Mikal Bridges is a really good individual defender. You would think they could give Boston a really good fight. Where I think the Knicks lack, I actually think their starting 5, they go toe-to-toe with Boston. The depth is where I think the Knicks lack. I think it'll, especially as the series prolongs, I think the depth will start to show. I think their bench is lacking. But I hope I'm wrong.
Has been for the past 4 years, and they haven't solved it. What does that tell you?
Yeah, maybe time
they
for.
They have the smallest roster in the NBA, probably.
Yeah.
Why can't you fix that? Especially should not be your main guy off of the bench.
Let me give you a hypothetical. If Thibodeau, I like Thibodeau. I think he's overhated by a lot of Knicks fans, and I get some of the criticisms, especially with the way that he uses the players' minutes. And he he doesn't really develop rookies, and a lot of people, get pissed off about that, especially early on, the first couple of years while he was the Knicks coach. But I like Thibodeau. I think he's done a really good job with the Knicks. But if the Knicks lose to Boston in convincing fashion, like let's say Boston sweeps them or wins in 5, I think Thibodeau is going to get fired, because I look at this Knicks team. What more can they really do to improve the team? They've already traded away all their draft capital. They're kind of strapped in terms of cap. Maybe you can make a player for player trade and try to improve the team that way. But I feel like they've kind of maximized the talent that they could bring in this roster for the most part. What other change can you make other than changing the coach at that point to try to get a guy in here that could bring you over the top? So I think there's a lot of pressure on Thibodeau, maybe not to beat Boston, but to at least make that a really tough series.
I've seen some talk that, especially if Milwaukee goes out first round, I think Indiana is favored, doing like a player for player trade, bring Giannis in, which I think it would be. I've seen people talking like Mitch and OG or something like that. Bring in Giannis. Maybe you can have him and Cat alternate 4 and 5. Have Cat be the stretch big. And then, kind of develop a scheme to have Giannis maximized as the help defender where he flourishes the best. But, yeah, that seems like a shot in the dark. Because Milwaukee's going to – it makes sense from the Knicks' perspective. Doesn't make sense from Milwaukee's because they're going to want picks and all that sort of stuff.
And the Knicks don't have it, yeah.
All right, it was great having you on.
I'm playing the outro music now, all right?
Again, like I said, let's see.
Hey, you got a heads up that I'm going to play the outro music
right now. Entertainah, let's talk for another hour.
Have a good night, guys. Have a good night.
You too, man.
I do that. Yeah. Thanks again, man. You were fantastic, man. Jess, good as always. Kind of concerned about your emotional well-being, but beside that, man, this is awesome, man.
I have way too much invested in this team, man. I've got way too much invested.
Enjoy the draft, guys. Enjoy the draft, okay? I'll talk to you.
Thanks for watching this, everybody.
Be good.
Be Blue Lifers out.